Welcome to Sonic Rush. This was one of my first Sonic games as a kid. I think I played like Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and I never had Sonic 3 as a kid. Because I played them on the actual like Mega Drive, and that was just a game that I didn't have for ages. Eventually I got Sonic Mega Collection, where I was able to play it. But for a long time, just didn't have Sonic 3, and I didn't get to experience Sonic 3 and Knuckles until I got the like Steam version, because even though it's in Mega Collection Plus, like you can play Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you had to unlock it by like playing Sonic 3 like 50 times, then playing Sonic and Knuckles like 50 times, or something stupid like that. So for ages, I never had it. Eventually, I did unlock it on Mega Collection Plus, but that was later. This was one of the first Sonic games I played, and it doesn't really hold up because it's like boost gameplay in 2D, which I'm not a huge fan of boost gameplay. For those of you who don't know, I am not a huge fan. And also, like, the levels are just not super well designed. Like you saw earlier, I just fell into a massive empty pit. Like, that doesn't feel like Sonic design to me. Not that Sonic doesn't have bottomless pits, but it's more like usually in Sonic it's like there's a tiny hole that is a bottomless pit, not this whole area is just a bottomless pit and you have to like precariously platform along it. And also I think this game kind of inherits the Sonic advanced like dimpsisms, where there's like boosters everywhere and there's springs everywhere, and like people say the levels kind of play themselves. That is very true of this game if you're boosting. When you're not boosting, you can't really just hold forward. Like I wouldn't say the game necessarily plays itself. And you do need to try to get boost, right? Because you need to do tricks and stuff to build up that meter. But it is still like not a very good system, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this game. Is like it's not a bad Sonic game. It's just kind of like not the most exciting. I've been giving updates here and there about my sort of Magic the Gathering experience, because this game has kind of taken over my life in a way. It's like, very often I'll get into a game and I'll be like, yep, this is what I'm doing for the foreseeable future, right? But sometimes a game like Melee, a game like Magic comes around, or at least when I was like 12, right? The Binding of Isaac was also this for me when I was really young. But sometimes a game comes along and it just captures my mind in a particular way where it's not like I can't think about anything else, but I am constantly thinking about it. And this game has kind of, yeah, taken over, as it were. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about something I've been doing recently, and I will update you on how well it works once I've actually had the chance to try it. But in short, there's a Commander format called... No, there's a Magic format called Commander. If you know anything about Magic, you know what Commander is. If you don't, it's 100 cards and they're all different. You can't have any of the same card twice. You have one main creature which you can cast at any time for the right amount of mana. It's your commander. It's kind of, I mean, usually it's like the centerpiece of the main strategy for the deck. And the colors of that commander dictates the colors that every other card has to be. For example, if you had a red and a green, if you have a commander that's red and green, every card will be red and green, or red or green, with no exceptions other than like colorless. I decided to build a commander deck from scratch, mostly from the cards that I had, well, that was the idea originally. I was like, I'll build something from the cards that I have, and I'll see like how I can get on with that. Like, how achievable is that? I've been collecting basically since Bloomburrow came out, which is the most recent set. So what can I do with like basically only Bloomburrow cards, but also a few others from like here and there? The answer is not super duper well. I did have a commander card that I wanted to use, which is Helga, Skittish Seer. Helga is a frog that whenever big creatures enter, you draw cards, you gain life, and you put a counter on her. That's basically it. She also taps for mana, so you can play more big creatures with Helga, but overall, I kind of just wanted Helga for the colors, which is Bant, it's white, blue, and it's green. And I was mostly focused on using Helga to draw cards. It's really easy to go in a direction where you buff up Helga and you put a lot of protection on Helga and then you just whack people for a lot of damage. Like, it's very easy to build the deck in that kind of way, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit different. I still ended up having a lot of big creatures with counters. I think overall I would describe the main strategy of the deck that I have formed as being like a +1/+1 counters deck. But it's not nearly focused enough because I don't have all the cards in the world. But I ended up going to my local game shop and just sifting through bulk for about an hour and a half to make this deck possible, because I just did not have enough unique cards to actually make the deck from my collection. So I bought some cards from my local game shop, and like, they're all worth pennies. Like, I have not spent a significant amount of money on this. I think if I had to estimate the amount of money that I've actually spent on the deck is like a tenner, and that, you know, if you don't include like the sleeves and stuff, obviously. The cards that I bought today to make the deck possible were like £4. And then everything else, you know, probably doesn't sum up to much. It's not a very, you know, focused deck. It's probably not a very good deck, but I'll let you know when I get the chance to play with it how it goes. And I think, like, you know, it was fun sort of building a deck from scratch, because that's not really something I've done before, other than like draft and sealed, like pre-release. But that's very different. It's a 40 card deck, you're allowed repeats, and you have a much smaller pool of cards to play with. A lot of the time in draft, the deck builds itself after you've drafted it. Maybe that's just because I'm bad at draft. But that generally feels true, is like, yeah, I've drafted 45 cards, but the 23 that I want to choose feel fairly obvious. And then there's some considerations on like cuts and stuff. But making a draft or a sealed deck, well, maybe not sealed, because with sealed, you got more cards to play with. It can be slightly more difficult to like pick out a deck from there. But certainly with draft, it feels like a lot of the time I have built my deck by the time I've drafted it, and I just need to put it together. But yeah, I'll let you know how that goes.